Well, these dusty roads all lead up a hill. Gonna find a quiet place to just stand still, to learn about that narrow way. Let it guide the words I pray. Yeah, let it light my way.
Hello, I hope you enjoyed our little country and western jingle that we got together for this podcast series. My name is Phil. I am the rector of Draycott and Lem Valley Benefice, and this is a podcast that we created for the summer where myself and the rest of the ministry team are having a little look at the Sermon on the Mount and seeing what it says to us. So we're going to begin just by going around the room and seeing who else is here with me.
I'm Karen. I'm Barbara.
So the three of us started off with the Beatitudes last time out. We're going to pick up right where we left off at Matthew 5, verse 13. We're going to read it through to verse 16. Barbara's going to read it to us from the King James translation, which will be very familiar to some of our hearers, maybe not to others, but we'll explore it together and really get to the heart of what these verses are about.
Ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost its savour, whereby shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out, and to be trodden under the foot of men. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle, and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works, and glorify your Father which is in heaven.
Anything we jump out to you from there?
Good old King James Version,
Yeah.
Straight into men.
It doesn't say, though, how one might lose saltiness,
No.
does it?
Do you think there's, given that this follows straight on from the Beatitudes, do you think, I don't know, I'm asking this, I'm not saying I know the answer to this question, but do you think the Beatitudes maybe have a clue to the answer to that? Do you lose your saltiness by no longer hungering and thirsting for righteousness, by ceasing to be merciful, for not being pure in heart, for not being a peacemaker?
But the second part of the statement is it's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out. That's not at all encouraging, is it?
No,
It's
it isn't.
just the opposite.
Yeah.
It's almost as if you fall away from the Beatitudes a little bit, you can't recover. You can't do anything to get better.
Yeah, that's quite a juxtaposition sort of verse, isn't it? Because then it goes on to be more encouraging after that.
Mm. But if the light is more encouraging, and the salt and the light are two analogies that he's using, is it that he's taking different elements from the different analogies to create the bigger story? So maybe the point of the salt is not you get chucked out if you lose your saltiness, and more the whole point of salt is that it brings flavouring. So there's no point to salt without flavouring.
Without the flavour.
So there's no point to saying you're my disciple if you're not going to follow what I say, because it's just like putting salt on your chips, but not actually having the salty taste, which is just gives you the too much sodium with.
Do you think it's a challenge?
I think yes, it is.
You are the salt of the world, of the earth. But if you lose your flavour or saviour, how can you then carry on doing the mission if you haven't got that oomph about you?
Yeah.
Whether it's got anything to do with the pain of putting salt on a wound.
I confess, I often used to skip that little bit because I like the bit that came afterwards. That you were the light of the world.
Yes,
because that is much more encouraging, isn't it?
Yeah. But in some ways, it's a little bit like the first part, where you're really challenged by being blessed in just about everything, and then after that challenge, you're told to be rejoice and be exceedingly glad, because you'll get your reward in heaven. And then you're told about the salt, and if the salt's lost its savour or flavour, and then you're encouraged about being the light of the world. So it's like a whammy and then some encouragement, I think.
Because the thing that I always was told about salt was that it was used as a preservative.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
And so there's something about actually living the Christian life, being his disciples in a world that's broken. Actually, it's something about being a preservative in that world and having a positive effect, flavouring what's going on around you. And so is he saying, actually, if you're not doing that, you're not having that impact on the world around you, so you're not actually doing what you're meant to be doing, what you're here for? Because this is an interesting little bridge in the sermon, because I always flip-flop about Sermon on the Mount and what I think it's about, because particularly with verses 13 to 16, I always thought it was about evangelism. And actually, this is you're there to be the salt and the light, preach the gospel. And then when we move on after that bit, it's all about this is how you live a life that's kind of spreading the gospel. But then part of me thinks, no, it's about discipleship and what it means to be a disciple. And actually, this is Jesus' kind of discipleship 101. So I'm always flip-flopping whether this is a text on how to spread the gospel or a text on just how to be a disciple.
But as a disciple, you are supposed to spread the gospel. So is it not one and the same?
Yeah. Which raises the question, actually, is evangelism a thing, or is actually discipleship a thing that just leads to people hearing about Jesus? Maybe we scare ourselves a little bit by saying we must go out and do something evangelistic, whereas actually we go out and live as Christians, and that's what we're called to do, and the church grows just through living how Jesus told us to. We don't have to be on a street corner with a baseball bat saying...
Exactly, because we all have different gifts, and to be an evangelist, in inverted commas, is a gift, and not everybody can do it.
No.
But there is something about speaking about Jesus. But I suppose it's actually, if you're living in such a way, and people say, well, why do you do that?
Exactly.
Then you can explain without thinking, right, I've got these 7 points that I need to make in this conversation. You just live it.
Exactly, yes.
And then if people ask you why, tell them. Don't worry about all the nuances and all the theological, just live it. And if you can explain why you live in it in your own words, that's more authentic than...
Definitely.
It is,
definitely.
Yeah.
Is this 20-page prepared sermon that
Which for a lot of people will just go, whoa, over their heads, won't it?
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
It would. And I think that reflects a lot in the variety of services that we've got. Because some people are very, very comfortable in BCP, and some people would never go near it with a barge
Exactly.
And there was something on the radio the other day about BCP is so comforting for neurodiverse people because they know exactly the structure,
Yes.
exactly what's going to come next, and there are no surprises, and it's all very structured.
And the poetry is wonderful.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yes.
Like Shakespeare, which I do love. So it's stuff like that where that can be evangelistic for some people, but for other people it's a big
real
no.
turn off, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the same way as worship songs are turn-offs for some people as well. And other people it draws them in. So it's almost horses for courses, isn't it? For different ways of evangelism.
Yeah.
And evangelism really goes back to the Beatitudes, to being kind and helping people and bringing people to God through peace and security and making them feel welcome, whether it's in a church building, whether it's in a group, or whether it's just a casual conversation with somebody in Sainsbury's or somewhere. Or the supermarkets are available.
Just think about that. I think it's really nicely to what I was thinking about the second half and the light. Just because, talk about BCP, that that final verse 16, in the same way, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father which is in heaven.
Yeah.
In the BCP service, that's what we say.
We do.
After the sermon as we transition into the prayer.
Yeah.
So there's definitely BCP vibes from this.
Definitely.
But conversely, at the complete other end of the spectrum, let your light shine is the kind of motto that we've got at Knightley Primary School, which is one of the church schools in our benefice. And I was at their leavers service yesterday, and we were talking about let your light shine. And I was talking about now you're leaving primary school, but we take light out from under the basket and we put it on the lampstand, and now you're going to the bigger place to let your light shine. And I think that sounds cheesy, but just putting those two things together, actually we say this every time I go into the school, and I say it every time I do a BCP communion, and you use different translations, but it's the same message, isn't it?
Yes.
But it's interpreted on the one hand for school years 1 to 6, and on the other hand for people that potentially have been saying those words for 60, 70, even more years.
Yeah.
I've always remembered that Stretton Church, because it's up on a hill, people have always said to me it's called the Church on the Hill.
Yes.
And they see the lights. And that, I think that can bring comfort to people. Might not ever go into a church, but they see the lights on the church on the hill. And it makes a big difference, knowing that people are in there and it's active. So, let your light shine before men that they may see your good works. So what good works are we letting them see?
Hopefully our relationships with other people are going to be a good thing to see.
Welcoming people into the church space, is that a good work?
I think so. And also being willing and able to listen.
Yes.
Because sometimes people come just because they have something that's really upsetting them and they need somebody to talk to about it.
You need a safe space.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the way odd things come into your mind sometimes. And I was talking to somebody the other day who'd been in the army for a long time, and she was actually a podiatrist. And she was saying she deals with a lot of trauma for people who've been in the army. She said sometimes when she's dealing with their feet, it's a safe space for them to actually express anxiety and what they're feeling. And it's creating that safe space. Might not be an obvious safe space, but it is a safe space, isn't it? And so that people can realise that they can express themselves.
Yeah, I found that once, I go to the Parachute Regiment Association unit, and relationships there changed after they had decided they wanted me as their chaplain.
Wow.
And it was quite obvious. And I was surprised at some of the people who came to speak to me privately who hadn't felt able to do that before.
Because
I wasn't officially.
You weren't. You didn't have the correct label, which in some of the armed forces was probably
very
needed.
important. Yes.
Yeah, and I think in the past people have said to me, "You're something to do with the church," and that was before I was ordained.
Yes.
But known as somebody who went to church, and that sometimes gave them a bit of a permission.
Exactly.
To to talk to you, and the same with farmers when I used to go to the livestock market every week. It opens the door for people and gives them permission, to open up and to talk.
I think that's why the coffee stop at Stretton and the farmers market coffee shop are good places.
Yeah.
People will come and share things and ask questions. And
they're non-threatening because they don't feel as if they've got to go to a service and not know when to stand up or sit down or whether they can sing the hymn or not. It's just, again, a different safe space.
I think what's really interesting there in all those examples that you've given is, I know you do wear a collar, Barbara, but actually
It's my hang-up.
It wasn't a criticism. I was just saying.
I hope not.
but you both are local. Like
Yes.
this is your communities that you've lived and worshipped in. With the parachute regiment, they're your
Yeah.
people, aren't you? So there's something, and the coffee stop and the farmers market, actually, it's run by the people of Stratton and the people in Granborough. And so there's something about, actually, these are the neighbours, these are normal people that we realise are part of the church, and we're comfortable talking to them, not because necessarily because they've got a particular title. Obviously, chaplain did make a difference to you, but actually maybe your credibility is in who you are rather than what you are. Whereas I find it interesting because I'm not local. I've appeared from outside.
You're an incomer.
Well, I'm an income. I've been 37 years.
Same here.
It's fascinating. Interesting because do many people call you Reverend Barbara socially to
They
your
used
face?
to. I don't anymore.
Because I always get called Reverend Phil, and I always feel quite conflicted by that because I'm like, oh, there's nothing different. I'm just a normal person that happens to have this particular role.
You're right about that, because people feel as if they ought to give you a title, but it's not always necessary. But they don't quite know whether you need to be formal or not. Particularly when you talk to couples who are thinking about getting married, they seem to think there's this, not a barrier, but it's great formality. And we have to work hard, don't we, Senji? You have to do when you meet bereaved people to help people feel at ease. And the first thing that people want to tell you is the story.
Yes.
About how somebody's died, or what photos they want on the service sheet. And the same with wedding couples. They want to talk to immediately about hymns and how many people in church before we dig down into what makes the church so special. Why is it church and not a hotel?
Yeah.
And it's giving people that space to talk about what they want.
But actually, I don't know how you both do funeral visits, but I always start with the business of what the funeral's going to look like.
Yeah.
And then once we've got everything down, I say, okay, we're going to chat now about your loved one.
Yeah.
And if you change your mind about what we've just talked at the end of this chat, that's fine. It's interesting because people want to talk about the stuff we came in to talk about, but I always feel like that second half is actually the more
important
healing part of the funeral visit.
Yeah, I fully agree.
Yeah.
And
I think actually my experience is that it's the other way round.
Yeah.
That they want to talk first.
They want to talk. They want to tell you.
And then we can talk about what they want.
They need to offload.
Yes. Yes.
Particularly if there's some anxiety. I wish I'd have been with them when they died.
Yes.
Or the hospital did or didn't do this. Or,
yes.
And there's always some angst that they need to.
They need to offload.
Offload, and then there's often something about the family. Well, so and so can't be here because so and so ought to be here, but they're doing something else.
Yes.
And they feel that they're going to get that out the way very often, but it varies so much.
It does vary. Yeah. Yes, it does.
And you go to some visits and they've got it all cut and dried.
Yes.
And somebody's
got their service sheet all finished.
They say to me, I've done your job for you, and you look at it. No, you haven't. You've missed it, but none of it matters.
No.
Because we're there to guide and support and to be with those who are mourning. And as we know, there's some people who really, really get comfort into doing the practical things, but then you have to bring them to the place where they're allowed to mourn.
Yes.
Because you can get all the practical stuff out the way.
And that's the big one. The number of people say to me, I think I'm going to be strong. And I always say, you don't have to be strong.
No,
so the whole point of the funeral is not to be strong.
Yeah.
I'm there not to cry, so that you can cry.
Yes,
that's
right.
Really good.
Yes, that's really important. Because often people say to us, well, don't you get upset? And I say, well, of course, but you don't do it in the service. Yeah. You might fall apart in the vestry or when you get home if it's somebody you've been very close to, but we're there to hold everybody else together with God's love. We're not there, are we, to show our emotions, because that's almost selfish.
Because I did the funerals for both of my parents.
Goodness.
And some people I knew could not understand how I could do that. But as I said, it was the last gift that I could give my mum and dad. Because I knew them better than anybody else.
Of course, and
I could give them the kind of funeral they wanted. It was really tough, and
it must have been.
Did have a few tears. But mostly, as you say, they were before or after.
You have got to hold
it's a
it
gift
together
to do that.
And it's because, when people say to me, how do you do it? And I say, well, I'm lifted.
Exactly.
You've got God's grace.
Couldn't do it without
back to the Beatitudes. Really, that you're given you're given that gift to see it through. It's particularly when it's really, really close friends. So I've done 3 funerals of very, very close friends. And it's been tough. But you do it.
You do it.
But, I think it links to that, like you were saying about the attitudes, I think that links to the poor in spirit. But I certainly feel in funeral ministry, like when you're taking that funeral, you're holding the emotion for the room. And actually you do have to go and decompress
you do.
afterwards.
Definitely.
But it's like, actually, I'm keeping it together for this 45 minutes. And then you will go to your wake, and I will sort myself out.
Absolutely.
Because because I always find even though largely it's people I haven't ever met, actually you just listen to the eulogies and you see the faces of the family on the front row. It is hard work, isn't it?
It is.
And we all deal with them differently, because I can only deal with a funeral by having 3 or 4 or 5 minutes on my own, standing outside by the gate, waiting for the hearse to come and the family. And that's my getting my act together time as much as I can. When you've done all the hoo-ha inside of, service sheets and lights being on and microphones working and the organ is turning up and all that practical stuff, I say everybody's different, but I need that 3 or 4 minutes just to be quiet beforehand. But other people can't do things totally differently.
So I suppose going back to being the salt and the light, I suppose that funerals are a way that we as a team are quite privileged that we can actually do that. But there's so many different ways in the day-to-day that every disciple, every Christian is called to do that. And rather than naming them now, maybe we'll just kind of close this bit now with a bit of quiet, because it'll be different for everyone, but I think God gives us all opportunities to be that salt and that light, and it's about being alert and ready and recognising those opportunities.
Well, these dusty roads all lead up a hill. Gonna find a quiet place to just stand still, to learn about that narrow way. Let it guide the words I pray. Yeah, let it light my way.